Now, the most reasonable talk show host from Sop Choppy to the Redneck Riviera, here is Bob Kerrigan.
Well, good evening and welcome to Within Reason. Bob Kerrigan with you tonight with Bill Rankin, my partner. Nice to have you, Bill.
Happy to be here. This is fun.
We give equal time here to even the most right-wing views. That's why we brought Mr. Rankin on tonight to share with us some of his libertarian philosophy. This is from the top 25 underreported stories of the year, and this is a pretty interesting story. In a startling affront to American freedoms of expression, privacy, and association, the Violent Radicalization and Homegrown Terrorism Prevention Act passed the House on October 23, 2007, 404-6. The Senate is currently considering a companion bill. The act would establish a national commission and a university-based, quote, Center for Excellence, unquote, to study and propose legislation to prevent the threat of radicalization of Americans. Author of the bill, Jane Harman, Democrat from California, explains, quote, we're studying the phenomena of people with radical beliefs who turn into people who would use violence, unquote. The act states, quote, while the United States must continue its vigilant efforts to combat international terrorism, it must also strengthen efforts to combat the threat posed by homegrown terrorists based and operating within the United States. Understanding the motivational factors that lead to violent radicalization, homegrown terrorism, and ideologically based violence is a vital step towards eradicating these threats in the United States. The Senate is currently considering this. This is from one of our wacky liberals in California, and I'm telling you, I don't accept those people. I wouldn't think Nancy Pelosi would be the best person for the Democratic Party.
It sounds like thought control.
It's exactly the thought police.
You're thinking the bad thoughts.
But we're going to have a university center of excellence, okay?
And we have this. How about the people who say, you know, in Germany, it is against the law to deny the Holocaust. There's a point in here, and which I think is nonsense, because having somebody goofy enough to say there wasn't a Holocaust will really test it, and that's how you know it's true. Somebody's tested it.
Sure.
Well, we don't have that in this country. We have more free speech than that. But now you hear about global warming deniers. Even having a contrary opinion is wrong, because it's going to deter people from being politically correct and composting or some nonsense. Now I got to the John Stuart Mill quote, because it bears directly on this.
Okay.
This is why we have a show like this where you disagree with everybody. Says, I don't like what Bob's saying. Let's take that off the air. Well, Governor Bush basically did take you off the air one time.
He did take me off.
But this is the best expression I've heard yet of why we need competing opinions. Okay. Now, there is the greatest difference between presuming an opinion to be true, because with every opportunity for contesting it, it has not been refuted, and assuming its truth for the purpose of not permitting its refutation. Get it?
Yeah.
There are two ways to do it. Well, let's not let anybody say the Civil War is bad. Let's not anybody say World War. We had that in this country. World War I is bad. Let's not anybody have terrorist kind of ideas like. There are people who said after 9/11 that, well, America's partly responsible for this. And a lot of people found that abhorrent. I did too.
Right.
But there are people who say, well, that guy's not patriotic. Let's shut him up. That's unpatriotic. That's exactly wrong. Our ideas have to invite controversy and invite testing.
Be tested and retested.
A center for excellence to shut people up who disagree with us. Good grief. Because if you ever study history, the one thing you learn is mankind's wonderful capacity for error.
I have some more for you. In an effort to prevent people from becoming, quote, prone to radicalization, this preemptive measure of policing thought specifically identifies the internet as a tool of radicalization. The internet, this is in quote, has aided in facilitating violent radicalization, ideologically based violence, and the homegrown terrorism process in the United States by providing access to broad and constant streams of terrorist-related propaganda to the United States, says Representative Harman. Is she a piece of work, or is she a piece of work?
I'd like to ask Representative Harman this. Well, in other words, if I oppose this bill, thus helping the terrorists, would I be a threat to this country?
Why do you think it
That's
passed?
when it gets extremely dangerous.
Why do you think it passed 404 to 7? 404 to 7?
Because in our soundbite politics,
right.
You know, you didn't want to be the one who had your opponent stand up and say, we oppose the anti-terrorism bill. We'll put the name anti-terrorism on any stupid thing, and the sheep up there have to vote for it.
And they have done just that.
Yeah.
They've done just that.
Because we don't have limited government like we're supposed to. We have government out of control.
Let's go to the auto industry for a second, because there are some ramifications to this, and I know you're vigorously opposed to this. I'll make a couple of comments about it and have you respond. If we don't help the automakers, and let's not bring into the discussion the merits or lack of merits of their history of problems, okay?
Right. They are what they are today.
They are what they are today. If we don't, there's going to be a rippled effect from this. They have over 1 million people that are receiving health care benefits and retirement benefits. To say nothing of the current workers, which I think is like 200,000 of the 3 automakers, some figure like that.
And they say that the suppliers are a lot more than that.
And look at the people in our community, the Chevrolet dealers and the Chevrolet and the GM people and all of that. It's troubling because you don't know where it's going to stop. But the argument is, if you're going to help these freewheeling criminals out of places like Lehman Brothers, why aren't we helping the core manufacturing industry in this country?
That's a false argument, though. I mean, you do one wrong thing, that doesn't mean you need to do another wrong thing. And I think what's wrong with that argument is that the auto industry, as it presently stands, cannot continue. They've got too much capacity. One of the reasons they got too much, there are a couple of reasons they got too much capacity. Government's implicated in it. It's because of the job bank, which means if you lay off an auto worker, you still got to pay him, so you might as well just, keep making more cars than are necessary and sell them to rental fleets. The airlines have all been through Chapter 11 and restructured everything. Now, why the Democrats can't really be for that is the unions kind of put them where they are, and the unions hate that because the unions have all kinds of crazy benefits. Now, the head of the United Auto Workers say, well, now we're finally ready to give back on the job bank. But they're not talking about giving back on a structure that has them paying like $70 an hour for wages and benefits for auto employees. That has to change. It can change in a bankruptcy.
But now the $70 an hour, let me make one clarification. That includes legacy costs, which are all of the people who have retired. So it's not just that worker who's getting $70 an hour of his wages and benefits. It includes benefits for the retirees. So it is somewhat of a misnomer. However, it is still higher than, say, Toyota and Honda.
A lot higher.
And the reason is Toyota and Honda don't have the retirees built into the legacy costs.
And they don't have the United Auto Workers. And they don't have a list of work rules that high, which is kind of changing the subject.
There's a union component. Let me make this observation about, and see if you respond to this. 95% of Japanese automakers sell their cars domestically. And there are huge barriers for United States automakers to compete in Japan. The automakers are saying, listen, we have an unfair playing field for our product. We have these legacy costs because we've been here and we manufacture in this country exclusively. That's probably not true, not exclusively.
There's another reason for that.
To a large extent. But what do you think about that? The trade barriers, particularly in Japan, and yet the Japanese are over here with Toyota, and they're wide open. There are no trade barriers, no nothing.
Right.
They're all making cars, raising hell and everything, and having a great time. But the big three are handicapped.
And that probably should be addressed. But if you just throw money at the big three, and what they've come up with, well, we got this plan. It's not viable the way it stands now. These things are going to have to be restructured.
All right, we're wrapping it up, and good to have you with us tonight, Bill Rankin. My guest, Bob Kerrigan, will be back Within Reason next Wednesday. This program is rebroadcast on Monday night at 10, Friday night at 10, and we'll see you next Wednesday, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Good night.